In this video we're going to be taking a look at how to find notes on the fretboard of the guitar. If you're a beginner, you've probably been learning chords and you haven't yet come across the need for knowing what the notes are on the fretboard. Maybe use guitar tab, chord boxes, but knowing how to find the notes is going to give you a greater understanding of what you are doing. In the case of, say, a chord like C, if you know that that's the C note and that's the C note, it gives you a greater understanding of why it's a C chord. So we're going to look at how to find the notes on the fretboard. If you're a beginner and you've got a book, it'll probably have a chart, something like this, which is on the screen with all the notes plotted out. And it seems like almost going to be impossible to memorize that. I remember as a 14-year-old learning to play the guitar, you used to have to constantly refer to a chart to find the notes out because it didn't seem a possible way of remembering or memorizing it. So we're going to look at how to do that very, very easily. Now, one of the problems that you're going to find with the fretboard of a guitar, it's not very visual when it comes to knowing what the notes are. And where when you compare it to a keyboard, it is very visual. You can't go wrong on a piano keyboard. So we're going to look at the musical alphabet and the notes in the musical alphabet on the keyboard. It's a lot more visual, and I found it a very effective way of teaching people the musical alphabet, then translating it how that works on the guitar. And it seems to be a problem-free way of explaining it. What we're also going to do is look at some shortcut methods of finding notes as well. It's going to be one of them videos that if you miss what I say, rewind it back, watch it through again. It saves having to repeat all the time, which is a good idea. So let's look at the piano now and we'll work out what our musical alphabet actually is. So now that we know our musical alphabet, I'll put the little chart on the bottom of the screen with the piano so you can refer to that in case you get a little bit mixed up. Now the next thing we're going to have to know with the guitar is the names of the strings in the notes that they are tuned up to. So we're not talking about alternate tunings here, we're talking about standard tuning on a guitar. And the notes that the strings are tuned up to are E, A, D, G, B, E. A well-known rhyme that people use is Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie, which children find hilariously funny. You could have elephant ate dynamite, goodbye elephant. Just yesterday I was doing a lesson with someone called Eleanor, and was it Eleanor ate dynamite, goodbye Eleanor, which I found hilariously funny. But that's how you're going to remember the strings: E, A, D, G, B, E. When I was learning to play the guitar, I used EADGBE, Great Britain, England, E, A, D, G, B, E. So they are the names of the notes that these strings are tuned up to. That's going to help when you come to tuning the guitar up and you have the guitar tuner and you need to know what note the string should be tuned to. That's possibly for another video, but that is one of the problems beginners have when tuning the guitar up. They don't know what note it is supposed to be tuned up to. So how does what we've just looked at on the keyboard relate to the guitar? So we're looking at the keyboard from the piano, which might look a little bit daunting. Now you'll notice on a keyboard you have the 2 black keys, 3 black keys, 2, 3, 2, 3, so on and so forth. So there's a definite visual pattern which you don't get on the guitar. Now if we hit middle C, how do I know that's middle C? Because it's actually written on the keyboard. So that's the C note. The C note comes before the 2 black notes. That's how we find a way on the piano. Your black notes famously are the sharps and flats. At the minute we're not interested in sharps and flats. So if that's C, then that must be B and that must be A. So our musical alphabet: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. So if you look at that, A to A. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. So our musical notes are going from A to G, starting again at A. Fairly straightforward. So you only really need to know less than half the alphabet to be able to know our musical notes. Now the black notes are the sharps and flats. So we're going to ignore flats for just now, and we're going to look at sharps. Sharpen is to take something slightly forward. So in the case of A sharp, B. Now there's no black key there, so it's straight to C. Keep that in mind. A sharp, B, C. C sharp, D, D sharp, E. No black key, straight to F. F sharp, G, G sharp, A. So again, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, straight to F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. So if we remember that, so there's no black keys between A and F and B and C. Keep that in mind. Now to flatten something, if somebody flattened you, they would have knocked you down. So to flatten something, we go and take it down a step. This is where sometimes musical notes have more than one name. So A, we're going to flatten it, A flat, G, G flat, F, straight to E, E flat, D, D flat, C, straight to B, B flat, A. So we'll go through that again. A flat, G, G flat, F, straight to E, E flat, D, D flat, C, straight to B, B flat, A. So what you'll notice there is A sharp, B, B flat. So A sharp and B flat are the same note. Now I'm frightened to say that because some people, but it's essentially the same note. A sharp and B flat. Now you can wonder sometimes with musical theory why have they given that two names. Later on as you progress you'll find out that it's so that without getting overly complicated, things fit and the explanations become easier. If you think within a family, sometimes we all have titles. To some people you might be a father, you might be a grandfather, you might be an uncle. That when you start writing that down, that could seem complicated, but it really explains to everyone who everyone's related to. So that's kind of why sometimes in music things have more than one name, if that makes things easier to understand and I haven't just confused you. So now we're going to look at the fretboard of the guitar and see how all what we've looked at relates to that. So our sixth string, what we refer to as the bottom string because it's the lowest note, is E. So if we look at our musical alphabet, if you remember when we're going up, we're going to be sharpening. So E, the next note, remember F, so we don't have a E sharp, we have F, F sharp, G, G sharp, back to A. Keep going, A sharp, B, straight to C, remember, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. So we've gone from E to E, so we've gone up a full octave, then the same pattern continues on up the neck of the guitar. So that's E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, straight to C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. In that pattern we can do on any of the other strings. So on A sharp, B, straight to C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, straight to F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, full octave. Now when we're going down we're flattening. So if we've got E and we go down, E flat, D, D flat, C, straight to B, B flat, A flat, G, G flat, F, straight to E. The secret there, like we said before, nothing between, there's no sharp or flat between E and F, and none between B and C. Now we could do that on all of the strings. So on the G string we'll go G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, and so on. So that's how we're going to plot out the notes on the guitar. Now that's going to be really handy. So if we have a G chord, we know that that's the root note G. If you have a C chord, we know that that's the root note on C. In F chord, we know that the root note's the F, the E chord, the root note's E. So knowing how to work out the musical notes is going to help, and it is going to aid us. Now if we had, for example, that note there, that's going to take a long time to figure out by going B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G. Is there a quicker method of doing that? Well, these are some of the shortcut methods of getting on the fretboard quite quickly to figure out the notes. So in the case of the F note, if we go from the first fret of bottom E, which is F, if we go skip a string and go to the D string third fret, that is also an F, so like that. So if I went up a fret to the second fret of the E and the fourth fret this time of the D, we'll have an F sharp, and so on. So if I had that note and I was trying to figure out what the note was, instead of counting all the way up, I can just go, and I know that it's F sharp. Now if I put my first finger on that fourth fret there, and this time my little finger, so there's that kind of shape like that, so my little finger is on the 7th fret of the B, and this finger's on the 4th fret of D. They're the same note, like that. So I know that that's an F sharp too. So I can go like that. Might break my wrist doing that, but I can go, and that gives us a way of referring back and finding the notes. So if that's A, that's A, that's A. Now that same method works on the A string. So if I had that note, the B flat, and I'll go to that's on the 1st fret of A. If I go to the 3rd fret of the G, that's the same note, and then if I go to the 6th fret, that's B flat as well. Like that. So that's a bit. So if I had that note and I didn't want to have to count all the way up, I could. On the high E, it's just the same as that one. So there's a number of methods of being able to work out the notes. If I was trying to figure out that note out, what do I do? Well, we've got to remember that on the 12th fret everything begins again, so I don't have to start counting all the way from here all the way up. So in that case, if I want to know what that note is, I use my method. So that note is E. And I've very quickly been able to do that. Now, one of the problems when you've been playing the guitar a long time and you try to explain to somebody how to find the notes, a lot of experienced guitarists will just go to a note and immediately know, I just know that's E without having to think about it. If you use the methods that have just been explained, if you are using them all the time, you get more and more used to them, and eventually your memory just starts to kick in and you'll just know the notes without having to go through all their methods. But when you're a beginner, intermediate, and you're still learning this kind of stuff, you use them methods, and eventually you'll just be able to remember what the notes are. And when you get to that point, that's great. But sometimes when you get to that point, if somebody asks, how do you know what the notes are? You'll go, oh, I just know what they are, because you've been doing it for that long. And that's sometimes where the explanation, people's explanations are a lot more difficult than what they are in practice. But that's going to help you no end to be able to understand chords, what the notes are. So sometimes when you're watching videos and it's referring to it, I'm hitting E, I'm going to E flat, and you think, oh, I don't know what for, you're going to know how to work that out. And eventually you will be able to know what the notes are. When it comes to sight reading, if you start learning to read music, it's going to help you be able to read music. Again, it's going to give you a greater understanding of what you're doing. So as always, thank you for watching, and I hope that helps.